Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now here's about the historical tour. I know the other video about the Violet City tour. I kind of cut it off. And I'm going to talk about Stephen Bishop some more in this video. Stephen Bishop actually discovered most of what the tours go on today, and the guides will tell you this. He did everything that you would do on the historical tour, actually, and a good portion of what you did, or what we did in the Violet City tour. I didn't mention that in the last video, but I figured, I'll mention it in this one, since it's related to both that video and this one. Stephen Bishop actually, yes, he was owned by Dr. Croghan. He actually also, what happened is when Dr. Croghan died, 7 years after he died, he set Stephen free after he died, and it was in his will, and the other two slaves that he owned. So I did want to mention that bit of happiness for Stephen Bishop, but like I said, he died in 1856. I did forget to mention the other book. It was, of course, this is the first book, Haunted Hikes and Stuff by Andrea Langford. It's about the state parks. The other book that I didn't mention, and I realized it after I finished shooting the video, is this one. It's True Tales of Terror in the Caves of the World. Mammoth Cave isn't mentioned in this book. I looked. But it's actually, a pretty interesting book. I mean, I don't think anybody up and killed anybody in this cave. Although, if you want to count what Dr. Croghan did, you can call that murder. But he was doing medical experiments, whatever. But the historical tour, like I mentioned, does overlap with part of the Violet City tour, and it's lit. That part of the tour is lit from the entrance to the historical tour to Coffin Rock, or the Giant's Coffin, is lit. And that's the difference between, the Violet City tour. That's where it stops being lit. You go down the hill instead of going behind Giant's Coffin like I mentioned in the last video. Now, when you do go behind Giant's Coffin, excuse me, this is the part that Stephen Bishop did actually lead you on. And I forgot to mention this in the actual other part of the last video. You go through Violet City. Violet was actually the lady that was like great niece of Dr. Croghan, and it ended up becoming a national park after she died. It was Dr. Croghan's wish in his will that the cave remain in the family until the last person, like his nieces or nephews or whatever, died, which is what happened. That's got a lot to do with the history of the cave. Stephen Bishop, actually, there's a place called the Bottomless Pit. It ain't bottomless, people. It's 150 feet down. Of course, back then, the reason why they called it bottomless is, if you remember from the last video, and I'll show it to you again here, is the fact that they used those grease oil entrance, and excuse my French, they could not see caca with it. And on the historical tour, it's, this right here. That's right here in that picture. That's what they were using. And now I'm going to talk about Lost John. Lost John, you see where they pulled him out on the Violet City tour? I didn't tell you that, because the historical tour, they talk about Lost John there too. Lost John was a prehistoric person. He's a mummy from the actual cave. He's one of 4 mummies, or 4 bodies that got displayed until the United States government passed a law, Congress passed a law, saying it was inappropriate to show human remains with caves. So they took John back into the cave, back in the Violet City area, and buried him somewhere near where they found him originally. If you do go on the Violet City tour, you'll see a stone that looks like it has braces. If you have braces, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like a metal band around it, and it kind of had it looped, like wiring, and like a cable running back. That's the rock they found Lost John under. It actually was pretty interesting. They found that he had like sunflower seeds and gypsum in his stomach, and they didn't find him until 1935. And they dated his body back 2,000 years back to Jesus' day. So we're talking, you know, right back at like, you know, like 0 AD. So think about that. As far as the historical tour goes, you go through what Stephen Bishop would have called the winding way, but we call it Fat Man's Misery. It's called person misery because it's like this. It snakes through and it's big in space. I mean, you have to, you know, considering that I'm a little bit of a chubby person, it's kind of a pain in the ass in places. And, you know, it squeezes you up like this, you know, itty bitty little place, and you go push yourself through that. And that's after the bottomless pit. And Stephen Bishop actually crossed that and called it the winding way. He's also the one that actually named the Echo River and the river Styx. And there's eyeless fish in the Echo River that I know of for sure. The historical tour stops about 100 feet up from where the Echo River is. So, and it's like down the hill after Fat Man's Misery. And it's in Great Relief Hall where they stop. And there's a bathroom there. Believe me, when you get out of Fat Man's Misery, you'll be greatly relieved. It lives up to its name, believe me. And then you go up these stairs that it's 150 feet up, and it's in the draper room. It's wet. There's new stairs on there. The original tower, I remember, it was metal, and it was slick, like greasy slick, with cave water. And they've redone the steps to where you'll, I don't think my husband has shot any video of that, to be honest, but you try hoofing it up with a bunch of screaming kids, you'll be ready to slap somebody. And of course, I'm not a big fan of heights, so I was like, I was practically pushing them kids off the steps. I'm like, get me off the staircase! Get me off the staircase! I hate stairs! I mean, I was huffing and puffing, and I was ready to keel over. I was like, okay, just get me off the stairs, I'll be happy. But that's a pretty cool tour anyway, but it's all lit, and you don't have to worry about a lantern. And they tell you about Stephen Bishop, Little Alice, let's see, Fawn Hoof. She's actually in the Smithsonian, but yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. Now, I do need to go on and talk about Floyd Collins here. So, I will pause here about the historical tour. The historical tour is interesting, so you can watch my husband's videos later and see those. But, I am going to go on and talk about Floyd here in the next video, okay? So, thank you for continuing to watch, and please watch the next video.